Hi everybody, I'm Courtney from Missouri Star Quilt Company. I am happy to announce that we are going to carry the Eversewn Sparrow X embroidery machine. I'm excited about this. I've done embroidery on machines in the past. One of the many wonderful things about this machine is it runs through an app that you install on your phone or your iPad or your tablet. There are no USB ports. There are no cords to trip over other than the one to plug your machine in with. But I love that we can just use the app on our phone. And I'm going to show you a few things about the app to get you ready for when you purchase this and are ready to play with it at home. I've installed the app here on our iPad. I'm going to open it up. In the first screen you'll see it'll say My Patterns text and the guide. So you'll always have a guide for information that you were looking for. The text is if when we're ready to make quilt labels or any other kind of lettering or numbers. And the patterns are patterns that I've created or patterns that come with the machine. As you see here on the app, there are many different categories that you can choose from. I'm going to go right now into the floral category, and all of the designs that come with the app are right here for me to choose from. I'm going to choose that to start off with. The design pops up on the screen, and all of my colors of thread are right there as well. It tells you how large the design is, how many colors of thread there are, and how many layers are in the design. From there, I go up to my little pencil in the corner, and it's going to show me what it's going to look like in the hoop. So there's my design. It's centered in the hoop. The grid is behind it, so I can see where it's centered. I can go in, you can scroll across the bottom. I can add text from here if I like. Down here on the color, if I hit the little color key, this I can go in and change what kind of thread I'm using. So any kind of thread, I've got Isacord, there's Coats and Clark. Of course, you can always change the brand of thread to what you have available. Robeson Anton, Sulky Rayon. There are many different threads to choose from. If I go into View, across the bottom, if I go into the View screen, I can take away the grid or I can put in the grid. This comes in handy when we're doing names and lettering, so I can see if the lettering is centered on the design. I usually leave the grid on. It's just easier for me to see where my design is. Once you are ready, I think I'm ready to go. I want to stitch that. I'm going to go up into the corner and I'm going to hit the little sewing machine. That will tell my machine to start. Once the embroidery design starts, it will stop if I have a broken thread. It will stop when the thread needs to change color. I don't have to do anything else. I can walk away. I don't usually get too far. I get a little weird about that. I don't like to leave any machines unattended. If I'm in the same room, that's okay. But you can, if you want, you could take your iPad upstairs, watch some Netflix, and this iPad will tell you when the machine downstairs in your sewing room has stopped, and you can run downstairs and change the thread, come back up and finish whatever you're watching. So it's very handy. The app is really dynamite, and I think you'll enjoy using it. Some of the accessories that you're going to need to get starting with machine embroidery, one of the first things is you're going to need some machine embroidery needles. I usually use an 80-12 or a 90-14. The scarf is built a little bit differently and it prevents your thread from shredding. So I would recommend getting a couple packs of those just to get ready to go. The next thing you want to do is start gathering thread. You can use about any thread, but the best threads to use would be something that's shiny or has a nice sheen. Our Missouri Star polyester thread is very nice. I've been using that on my sew-outs. It has a very nice sheen to it. Also Madeira, we carry Madeira, and that's a very lovely rayon thread. They're both 40 weight and gives your embroidery designs, you want them to shine a little bit. I really wouldn't recommend using cotton. I'd really recommend that you use something that gives it a little bit of sheen. It makes it more professional looking. The next thing that I like to use is these small snips scissors. These are from Tula Pink. They get around the design when you're cutting away your stabilizer from the back of the design. This little with the curved edge on it, it gets close to the threads without snipping them. These are also easy to get in underneath the machine when you're clipping your threads at the beginning or after your embroidery is done, and that curved thread keeps it away from clipping the design that you just stitched out. So I really like the curved scissors for that. The other thing that you're going to want to look at is stabilizers. Stabilizers is probably one of the most difficult things to learn about. I will try to guide you as we do more projects with the Eversone on which stabilizer to use when. The kind of stabilizer that you use will depend on the project that you're doing. If you are doing a project, for example, a tea towel or a dish towel that you're going to see the back of the design, you would want to use a stabilizer that washes away because you wouldn't want to see that stabilizer on the back of the design. If you are doing a quilt label or a quilt block that's going to be inside of a quilt, I would just use a very lightweight tearaway stabilizer because you won't see the back of that, and it won't matter if some of that stabilizer stays in your design. If you are doing a very heavily embroidered design, something that's solid embroidery, very heavy, you'd want to go to a cutaway stabilizer. That's a lot thicker. It's probably 4 or 5 layers of one of the tearaways. It gives it a nice body and it'll keep that embroidery nice and flat. The reason you're using the stabilizer is because the fabric alone is not enough to hold up to the repeated stitching of your machine. And your design will crumble in and pucker, and you don't want that. You want a nice flat design. So if you are having trouble with the stabilizer, I always recommend that you stitch out a sample of whatever you're doing. Take a scrap piece of fabric, use the same stabilizer, stitch out even at least a small portion of the design. Make sure the design is laying flat. If not, you might want to add another layer of stabilizer. There are no rules really, it's just use what's working best for you and what the thread you're using and the fabric you're using. It just all depends on what you're using of what to use. So let me show you a little bit about the front of the machine and what the buttons are. Right here at the top, this is our wireless connection. It is flashing now, so that means that we do not have a connection right at this moment and we are not ready to machine embroider. Once it's ready to machine embroider, it will be a solid blue. Right here is our little thread cutter that will cut the threads. However, when you're using the embroidery function, the threads will cut automatically for you. This is our start and stop button. So you will press on that for a few seconds to get the embroidery started, and then it will automatically stop when it's done. This is our speed function. So if you're using maybe a metallic thread, you might want to slow that down a little bit, or if you want to try to go a little bit faster because you're in a hurry, you can push that up just a little bit. And that's about all of the functions you'll need on this machine when you're doing the machine embroidery. We hope you enjoyed these tips and techniques on the Eversone Sparrow X from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.